So, good morning, committee. It's Tuesday morning, I believe April 29th, maybe. And it's a little late. Instead of being 9:30 or 10, it's 10 after 11.
It's actually the 30th.
Today's the 30th. Oh,
The last day of April.
well, that's good to know. Get rid of April anyways. So anyways, we have, H87, which is our housekeeping bill.
Yep.
And, we had one, we've been through the bills several times and I think we made changes where up to this draft that you have before you. To where, we had that request from Julie Moore. And in regards to that, it's the two amendments, that I think we maybe need to discuss on 2 to 4. And then it goes on to 5 and 6. The first one, is in, direct discharge in Class A waters. And they wanted to take Class A out and put a Class A water classification at Class A before July 1 of 24. And, Michael, did you do some research on?
Yes, so waters are classified effectively Class A and Class B from the state. When a Class A water is generally a high quality water. And there are restrictions on what you can do in a high quality water. Federal Clean Water Act requires that any use of the Class A water has to be prevented from degradation. You have to keep the water at its current quality. And there are several waters that currently qualify for Class A. It could be designated, reclassified as Class A right now, but there is a statutory provision in law that says that in a Class A water, you cannot have an indirect discharge from a wastewater system, which is a septic system. If the system is more than 1,000 gallons per day, which means you can't have a septic that's more than 1,000 gallons per day. That limits the type of development that you can have in a Class A water. And according to the agency from their testimony last year, the 1,000 gallons per day limit is an arbitrary limit. It's not scientifically based. It's not more environmentally protective, because remember, there's an anti-degradation policy under the federal and state rules that prevents that water from being degraded. You can't make that water any worse than it currently is. So the agency's kind of in a limbo. Do we reclassify the waters that are Class A eligible so that they get managed as Class A, but then limit development in that watershed? Or do we not reclassify them and keep them where they are in Class B? You still have anti-deg, you can't degrade that water anymore. Right.
Systems won't handle.
Right, but then you would allow the development because it's a Class B water and you could do the development that you could do in a Class B water. So it seems very, I mean, there's arguments on both sides here. Do you not want development in Class A water of a certain size and scope because it's a Class A water? Or do you want to take away that 1,000 gallons per day limit because it's not scientifically based and the agency still has to permit any development in a way that prevents degradation of the water? So that's kind of your two sides of the issue here. And the agency is proposing to remove the 1,000 gallon per day limit for future Class A waters. So existing class A waters, it would still have the 1,000 gallons per day limit. But going into the future, that 1,000 gallon per day limit, it does not mean that they wouldn't be permitted. It would still need to get a permit for your septic as everybody else needs a permit for their septic under the A&R wastewater system and global water supply rules. And those systems can't be more than 6,500 gallons per day unless, except they get a special permit. So that's where you are under A&R's proposal. Current class A waters would still have 1,000 gallon per day limit. That's how they work. That was the requirement when they were classified. Future class A waters would not. Still be subject to anti-day. The system would still need an A&R permit. It could only go up to 6,500 gallons unless it got special authorization.
See, what I was told about this was that like Lake Carmine. There's camps on the upper north end, they're pretty close together. And there really is no room to put a bigger tank in that would actually work. And what they wanted to do is allow like 3 camps to group together and run a pipe out to where there was some good septic tank soils. And work together and build a joint system. And would this do that, Michael?
That's what I was gonna.
Yes, it would allow for that. It would allow for a system, mound system, joint system of more than 1,000 gallons per day. A newly classified class A water.
So then it would stay Class A waters and would be downgraded to E water. And seems like there were quite a few lakes in similar situations where they were up against it and the septic systems where 2 or 3 camps could join together and put a system in that would function and be well. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to make sure I understand what, if 2 or 3 of those camp owners decided to get together, would they have to wait until after July 1st, 2024?
Well, remember, if they're in a water that's already class A.
Yep.
The 1,000 gallons still applies in that water that's already class A. So they won't be able to do that mound system if they're already class A. It's going into the future when the waters, current class B waters are reclassified as A. But then those waters will be allowed to have mound system.
Okay, I guess I understand.
I don't.
So just read the language. No person shall cause a discharge into a class A water classified as class A before July 1, 2024, except for on-site disposal from a system with a capacity of 1,000 gallons per day. So the 1,000 gallons per day will still apply, but only to waters classified as class A before July 1, 2024. Water that's classified class A after that date will not have the 1,000 gallon per day limitation.
But what's the likelihood that that's going to get reclassified?
It's actually a requirement of all the basin plans that A&R does for the 15 basins to identify waters that should be class A. And there is a list of waters that should be class A, but has not been reclassified yet because of this concern. And so there are waters needing to be reclassified.
Well, it's something to do with federal regs, isn't it?
Well, the federal regs require the agency to go out and do what's called continued planning. And so they have to go out and they have to look at their waters, they have to see whether their waters are meeting higher standards. If they are meeting those higher standards, they have to protect those standards and protect the uses of those waters. So that's why you have these different classifications. Class A, usually good for drinking water, so you don't want that to be impaired. It's also good for wildlife, right? It's the highest and best use of the water. And so you don't want to degrade that, and so that's why classification of A requirements that come with it are important.
So maybe I can ask it a different way. If I'm one of the 2 or 3 camp owners that are up there now, is there a path forward for me to join my 2 neighbors and purchase land and put a 6,500 gallon disposal system in?
Generally, no.
Okay.
But there's something called the best fix system. So if all of your systems, all of those systems are failed, then A&R has to figure out a way to maintain the habitability of those dwellings, which means that they have to find the best fix. And it's possible that the best fix that they allow is some sort of alternative system, but they're still gonna have to navigate this 1,000 gallon per day. It's hard for me to say what the best fix is gonna be, because it's gonna be site specific. But there's a provision that A&R is supposed to allow for the continued habitability of dwellings with the failed system. They're supposed to do it under what's called best fix. How they would do it in this Class A water, I don't know.
So if we didn't put this amendment in the bill, what would happen?
If you didn't, then any new Class A water would be subject to this restriction as well. So any new development and a new Class A water cannot have a septic system of over 1,000 gallons per day.
But that's still gonna be,
Only for the Class A waters classified before July of 2024.
see, afterwards, they're gonna have to put a system in the works or the pump system or something.
Think of it like this, it's like those waters that were classified as A are subject to this requirement because they were classified as A when this requirement was in place. Those that were classified as A after July 1, 2024 will not be subject to this requirement because it will only apply to those before July 1, 2024.
Okay.
So it's helping the ones.
Future Class A waters.
And, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is this on its face pro-development or pro people who are already there or none of the above? Do you- Like, how will this play out there when we vote yes or no and people dissect it, twist it around and we go, well, that wasn't our intent.
It will allow for additional development in Class A waters or additional scale of development. And that is, I think, part of what the proponents for this would look for. A lot of the waters that are potential Class A waters are in rural areas of the state, Northeast Kingdom, etc. And they feel that this limitation would effectively make them the one line I've heard is that this would make them a museum. Because they couldn't do the type of development that would be allowed in other parts of the state that don't have Class A waters. And so they feel that that's unfair and that if they still have to meet anti-degradation, development still can't impair the water, degrade the water, then this 1,000 gallon per day limit is arbitrary.
So you mentioned becoming a museum. Does this added language help them not become a museum?
It does, it would allow for for a different scale of development. If this remained in place as it is, you could still have development in newly classified Class A waters, but it just couldn't exceed 1,000 gallons per day in septic. Now you take with 1,000 gallons per day, you allow systems of effectively up to 6,500 gallons per day. And that is a different scale of development.
Well, 6,500 would allow grouping of,
So in groupings, it would also allow for commercial, and other, not just residential activity.
so anyways, what do you think? Is that something?
Yeah, it took questions back and forth though for me to understand, and I hope it's clear.
This is what the agency proposed. I mean, speaking clean water law is a different language. So it's clear to the people that understand the language. I understand that it might not be clear to others.
Okay.
I'm just feeling like we're missing two members and this is pretty important language, so I'm concerned that, it says possible vote, I'm not comfortable voting it out without hearing from the whole committee. And having them also ask their questions, cause maybe they understand it on its face, but I sure didn't.
But Brian shouldn't be back. Richie will be here too.
Yeah, it's just hard, because this is the kind of stuff that haunts us, right, down the line, you're like, wow, that thing you passed, blah, 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 the last week of the session, and to think that we could do it with 3 members concerns.
Well, this is,
I would just say, you passed this language as a body
last year, wasn't it?
Oh, during this session by any. And it was not passed and not taken up.
In the house and, yeah. It probably, in the committees where that was, I mean, it probably wouldn't make it again this year. And not being from the Northeast Kingdom, having quite a few lakes and ponds and, you know, a lot of very good water. I think it's important for my area to make this change, to allow these old property camps that's been in the families for 3 or 4 generations to systems in place that instead of a 55-gallon drum or a little small septic tank, to allow them to put in a system that would work and that, because they don't want their lake contaminated. I mean, they would, you know, try to spend time there. But we'll wait till Brian and Rich, maybe tomorrow morning, we can get onto this, but let's go through the second of them. So at least 3 of us will understand it. So this is what, James Pepper presented to us on Friday, I think it was. And, I asked him to send it to Michael to get it in draft form. So you want to run through? that?
Sure. So hemp and hemp products are authorized for cultivation and sale in Vermont if you meet certain requirements. But as I believe you all know, there's been concern about alternative products that technically don't meet the definition of hemp because they're using a THC level that's or derived from a different source or a different type. And consequently, there's confusion as to the regulatory authority over those products. So what this does is to try to address that confusion. So notwithstanding what is currently defined as a hemp product, hemp products do not include any substance manufacturing intermediary or product that is prohibited or deemed a regulated cannabis product by the administrative rule of the Cannabis Control Board. So if the board says something is cannabis, it is not a hemp product. It is also not a hemp product if it contains more than 0.3% total THC on a dry weight basis. Again, that is federally a cannabis product when it does that. And then on page 6, that hemp derived product or substance that is excluded from the definition of hemp product shall be considered a cannabis product. However, that a person duly licensed or registered by the board lawfully may possess such products in conformity with the person's license. So if it is not a hemp product and it is a cannabis product under subdivision B, it can't be held and sold and marketed as a hemp product. It can be held by a licensee if it's part of their cannabis license,
Okay.
because it's a cannabis product.
And what type, you talked about product gummies and
Yeah, they would suck out the THC and put it in a new product.
You see them in gas stations, they're not THC 9, they're like 10 or 8. And so they're trying to like circumvent the limit on THC from 9. And that's what that first subdivision there, the board is going to prohibit or deem regulated the product as a cannabis control product. So they're gonna use their rulemaking, which they already have, to regulate those products as cannabis. But they have to make this conforming amendment to the definition of hemp, because somebody could say, hey, this is still a hemp product because I got my THC from 8, not 9. So that is what is being done here in order to,
so it would basically slow that stuff being.
yes, it moves that stuff out of like the gas stations
Into a regulation.
into a licensed establishment.
And
And then the next amendment proposed by James Pepper is defining what is not a public building. So I think you all know public buildings generally are, I'll just say, it's generally anything that's not a residential building, a multi-unit residential building. And when you're a public building, there are certain requirements that a public building needs to be, including meeting electric code, fire code, or ADA, multiple requirements that can, when you are retrofitting a building that doesn't meet those requirements so that it becomes a approved public building, can cost a lot of money.
well, what this is doing is helping small cannabis growers that have an old dairy barn that they converted over, and they might have one person or two come in and help.
Right, agricultural buildings are not public buildings. So agricultural buildings don't need to meet all the requirements that a public building does, and therefore don't have the cost of retrofitting or repair or renovation that a public building would have. But remember, cannabis cultivation is not agriculture. It's not farming. So when a permit specialist, your municipality, when you say to your municipality, I'm converting this old barn into a drying barn for my outdoor cannabis cultivation, they say, well, that's a commercial building. You have to bring that up to the public building
Fire
standard.
safety, the whole nine.
And that's significantly more expense for that cannabis cultivator than just retrofitting a barn for outdoor drying. When you're in an indoor facility for cannabis drying, I don't know if you've been in any of them. They're there are some, requirements that you have to have a fire system. Need to have your materials stored properly, etc. You don't have that same type of issues without outdoor cultivation for drying. If they were gonna then be processing and manufacturing products, you might have some issues, but if they're just going to be drying, that, and I think you don't have issue.
So that, we had Johnny Rogers and some others in them last year.
Yes,
They never found a home to take care of that. And the board, they're all on, the cannabis control board's on board and the farmers, so. Yeah, so.
Thanks, Bobby. So I just want to make sure, because what I remember from John's testimony was it was his son that he wanted to have help him during the drying process, and he had to go through a background check and a bunch of other stuff that he felt was burdensome. I just want to,
That's a separate requirement.
it is. I'm just looking at the 10 full-time employees and that they don't work more than half of the year. Did the CBB come up with those,
That's,
CCB?
yeah, it's basically so that it's not a full-time workplace. So it's basically they're not full-time employees, so you're not running into OSHA standards that you have to provide for.
Is that what the threshold is, the 10 and the 52 or 26? Okay.
So that's why that's there. I mean, that could have been 5 or, well, 10 is there.
Right, 10 is what's been proposed, so.
Yeah.
good, it's great. Good change.
Uh, So we had still, need to get, the hemp cards, okay, we'll just get, Brian and Richie, will hold us until they're with us from the first part.
Okay. See you tomorrow then.
Yeah, that would work.
Can you go at 9?
Right. 9? Yeah, I'll try.
Thank you, Martha.
Thank you.
The other, bill is H81.
No.
Did we have, 3.1? That's.
It's on the webpage, but I don't think I need it.
You guys,
Do you want me to show it on the web?
yeah, what number are we on?
3.4 is okay.
3.4. Let's see. Do you have an extra one of those?
I don't, but I'll get one.
I'll share my screen, Mr. Chair.
Did we have, we had some questions, that were hanging out on that?
Rick Sagal, Office of Legislative Counsel. Mr. Chair, couple things that were addressed last time, I edited in front of you all,
Yeah,
so no changes since then. I can go over those couple of points just to confirm it's what you all wanted, if you'd like.
well, it won't do any harm to refresh us.
Sure. So, again, 3.4, the current version. If you look on page 7, we added the term loggers on line 3 there.
Farmers and loggers.
Or loggers, correct. Yep. This is the MOU language. And we deleted the costs and limitations language that was on page 9 previously. That said it had to be fair and reasonable.
Yep.
That's been deleted. And then the MOU language at the very end on page 12 was reverted to the previous language we had that I drafted. Saying that the chapter shall not apply to an OEM that is entered into an MOU that substantially incorporates the provisions of this chapter.
Online, page previously, agricultural and forestry, online, my thing, it's line 12, where it says modifying agricultural or forest, equipment temporarily, deactivating safety notification stuff. Did we?
What page, Mr. Chair?
Well, this is a 3.1, so it may not line up. It's page 11, sections down D, little d was section 1, modifying agricultural and forest equipment to deactivate safety.
Yep, so on the screen there.
Yep.
It says modify agricultural or forestry equipment to temporarily deactivate safety notification systems.
So you got that.
That's great.
Yep. Irene raised that.
Yeah. I still would rather have not be temporarily.
Wow. See what happens when you can't come to the middle.
Well, I certainly don't want to permanent about it. Alter.
Were there any other changes, Rick?
No, Mr. Chair, just the few that I went over, not since I last saw you.
Yeah. The,
Someone else want that, you did.
Sure. It was
Thank you.
whatever, Levis. Thank you.
So Rick, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, of course.
And I'm on 3.4.
Okay.
So at the bottom of page 9, section 4003. In little a, it says person who violates provision of this chapter takes an unfair and deceptive act to take Congress in violation of that section of the title. What, if we change that to say the Attorney General shall have sole enforcement authority, does that change anything?
So, yeah, that little a is your private right of action. So if you were to give the Attorney General sole enforcement, I would have to reword that or, yeah, kind of delete it. Or at least, because the 2453 is your private right of action. So you would, if you go down to the next page, subsection B.
Yep.
It would be something like that. You would delete A, you would keep B, and I would include language that says there is no private right of action, if that's the direction the committee wants to go.
Well, at least one member of the committee. I thought in a way that by taking out that fair and reasonable, we had accomplished that, but
Yeah.
apparently we haven't. So,
that fair and reasonable was basically on the pricing thing.
Right.
And what did you wanna?
Well-
Talk about.
yeah, and again,
Showing her,
it's hard without running a what you.
but it would. So it would be your feeling to delete A.
Yes.
So that's, what about,
I think B and C are okay. Because that references a different, chapter title.
Same chapter, but, not the, private right action, correct? Just the consumer protection.
See, yes, I agree.
Mr. Chair, so, Rick, can you help me understand what we're losing if this comes out? And I don't know who this person is, this person meaning a farmer or logger who doesn't follow this law, or does it mean like a dealer, or does it mean a manufacturer? Like, I'm just confused, as maybe you can be like.
Person is that business thing again, right? That
Yeah.
large,
It could be a manufacturer, an OEM that's subject to the chapter. So if a OEM business person does not follow the terms of this act by providing the tools, providing the documentation, subsection A allows a injured farmer or independent repair provider the opportunity to sue the manufacturer.
Both, right?
Say it again,
It would be both ways, right?
both ways.
Well, the farmer that owns the equipment, the dealer that sold him the equipment, or the manufacturer.
Yeah,
If anybody, if a person violates a provision of this, so if they violate any one of the three violated the position.
yeah, although, farmers aren't really held to a standard here, nor are independent repair providers. Certainly, they cannot damage equipment that or undo a safety mechanism that they've been told they cannot do. But this language is meant to hold the manufacturers accountable. So I wouldn't read that as the farmers also being subject to this. It's mostly to protect the farmers.
I was reading something this past week where the farmer had been working on the machine and it all burned up. And it was the farmer's fault because they changed something and didn't change it right. But he sued the dealership and the manufacturer. Like got bumped to the manufacturer because the dealer, that's all they did is sold it. And so it went to the manufacturer, proven that the farmer had caused their own grief. But yet, the manufacturer settled it out of court rather than spending all this time in the court system fighting. And so, yeah, that wasn't good.
So how would that be different, do you think, if
Well,
the
that's,
farmer were under an MOU, or if they were under an MOU plus this law? I mean, is
I
it
don't
draft?
know, I was gonna ask Greg. How do you, sometimes it's cheaper to pay than it is to go to court and have it drag on for 2-3 years, and so how do you, could we get into that situation with this language?
A extended court battle, is that what you're referring to? Could it lead to that?
Is everyone being used fairly here? From the manufacturer to the dealer to the owner of
I can't speak to fairness. What I can speak to is this is well, it is a consumer protection bill, right? So the idea is you're protecting the consumer, which in this case, the farmers, the independent repair providers that are fixing the equipment. So in some cases, it is more helpful to the owners, to the repair providers than the manufacturers, right? Because you're holding them accountable. So if you're just asking me, is it more fair? Is it equally fair? It's a consumer protection bill. And consumer protection bills are passed to protect consumers. And not to the detriment necessarily of manufacturers, but usually there's a problem. In this case, the problem is right to repair. The equipment is not being repaired timely, right? That's the accusation. So in this case, you're giving owners the option through legislation to hold them accountable to get the things they need to repair their equipment.
So it's trying to level the playing field between the manufacturers who all allow the information and the farmers who need the information, is that the?
Yeah,
way to Characterize the bill, like to just
usually,
give power to the consumer.
correct. Again, usually there's some kind of underlying, so we have these MOUs, which are great, right? And I think you have the MOUs because you have this equipment that's getting complicated, tough to repair. And you have some states doing this type of legislation to hold them accountable. So yeah, usually there's some kind of impetus for this idea that consumers need protection.
So what do you have suggesting changes or? we
Just the
go-
one I suggested, check that one.
A.
Section A out here.
And Richie won't be with us, I think he's the one that's gonna be reporting. Right, no, he's gonna.
Timber.
Let's do it, timber.
They're appointing you to. Eileen doesn't do.
You have to vote it out first.
I
I said you have to vote it out. You have to vote it out first.
no, that's true. She just has to sign it. I do things different.
Okay. I'm so used to Texas, right? So
Because, yeah, we got the banana bill here on the, we had a question on 81 from, and that's the bill you're going to report. It's a bill, Irene wanted you and Richie to hear a little more about it. This one, if we can get it out of here,
Right to repair.
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And we're down to, I think, just one question. Whether we, on page 9, down on line,
Do you have the latest copy? It's 3.4.
Yeah, right to repair, yeah.
down at 18, down on line 18. There's a little a. Brian.
On page 9. Yes, line 19, little a person who violates.
Yeah.
He was questioning whether we should take that out or leave it in. And,
That lets the farmers sue directly rather than go through the attorney general, is that my understanding?
Correct.
Because if you take that out, then you have to go through the attorney general, to get in line of all the stuff the attorney general's also process.
Well, my point was that earlier last week, we had determined that we should take out the cost provision that's at fair and reasonable, and this still allows someone the private right of action in section 2453.
But I don't see those as similar. How do you see those as similar? Just because they use the word fair?
Yes, it's Title IX. It still leaves in this bill, the private right of action.
And what's wrong with the farmer being able to sue directly if they have a problem? I guess I'm just
I
trying to.
guess it's just a question of policy.
oh, you mean it would still be available? For,
Only through the attorney general.
Right, and I think farmers should have the right to sue directly and not get in line, because the attorney general doesn't work as somebody who filed a complaint years ago. I'm still waiting to hear back from the attorney general, so I think that's a bottleneck that I don't know that we need to force someone to go through in order to get justice. I really like this idea that they could go directly and sue, and that would mean leaving A in.
Well, I remain hopeful that we can reach a compromise on this bill. I still have reservations about it.
oh, the bill in general.
Yes, I still think we should put a study together. And I was gonna suggest that we put, so I think we've had emails last week from about 25 different organizations that suggested, some draft language that would have put a study in effect. And I was gonna suggest we put that in the miscellaneous bill, but
that helps, our counterparts, he, Radlin, Gates, Alberta.
Yeah, they passed it by a long. A big margin.
Yeah, that is the main. I don't think there's very many that. would say the same committee, but, but. Was this in, had been in the bill from day one?
Yes, the private right of action, yeah.
So Irene, could we delete that and still, if it becomes an issue in the conference committee, because they, you know, they aren't gonna accept this.
I don't know what they're gonna say. I haven't been in the conference committee before. I'll take your word for it, but I definitely don't want to study. So if I can report on it, I should probably be voting for the bill, right?
I believe you
Well,
procedurally should be.
Yeah.
voting.
Yeah. You know, a conference committee has as much authority as this committee or the else.
Okay.
And you, if you delete something, and they'll wanna get it back in, but then if we, well, sure, we'll agree to put it back in, but we need this.
Right.
Or need this left alone.
Sure.
So it's good to have, I mean, you go into it, no. And, so we could do it that way and with, you know, knowing that the committee is not fully on one side or the other and have it as a negotiating.
Sure.
That usually works. You know. So, did you want, would you go along with doing that?
Yeah, as long as it's not a study. I mean, if that's the only change we're making today, I just feel like every day we show up and we make more changes, and I just feel like the bill's getting watered down. And so at some point I wanna put a pin in it, pass it out.
Yeah, well, the time is past.
I think so.
Can I present some language? Can I show you some language for this?
No, we just delete A and re-letter the rest of it.
Well, let me show you something that's gonna be similar to this, but I think we wanna be clear what we're doing. You can feel free to. So this is incorporating B.
A,
Yeah, so I deleted A. A violation of this section shall be deemed a violation of the Consumer Protection Act 9 VSA Chapter 63, provided that no private right of action shall arise from the provision of this section. This Act. The Attorney General has the same authority to make rules, conduct civil investigations, enter into assurances of discontinuance, and bring civil actions as provided under 9 VSA Chapter 63, Subchapter 1. So this is, you can look at your subsection B.
Right.
It's basically B, but also adding in that there is no private right of action. That way you're making it clear what you're doing here.
and then that would be A and B.
Yeah. And C is now B.
Can you just scroll down a little bit so you can see the top of it?
Yeah.
That's a great.
There you go.
And so the private right of action translates to somebody suing directly.
Right.
That's what it means.
Right.
Let's be, thank you.
30 days. Yep. Um. Brian, you've been pretty quiet. I don't blame you, but
I see. So,
I gotta get you off that horse here.
so you're thinking about the right of action? Is that what you're trying to decide?
Yeah.
And what do you think, Mr. Chair? I mean, to me, it's fine if you want to pull it. If you want a little more time with it, that's okay too.
Well, the time has come.
Yeah,
We need,
well, then maybe we pull it,
well,
but
I think that would.
jeopardizing the bill.
Houses, you might agree.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Good, I mean, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Okay, great.
From what we started with to what we have, it makes a lot more sense and somewhat rational.
Mhm.
Certainly nobody on either side are got what they want, but I think most of the people can live with it. And if they can't, well, things are, you can always change it, down the road. If we had to, well, if you had. Cause I won't be down. But,
That's what we hear.
I wanna get it, in order so that we can vote it out of here. These split votes don't seem to work. Right. So, I think, we could hit this one, get rid of it and get it out of here. And, then we still got our general housekeeping bill. Richie's will be up, hope, it's on the calendar.
It was on notice.
Notice, so it's up for tomorrow, but we didn't do anything,
Oh, that's right. We got a big back.
yeah. And, we're government workers, so that may take us like the post office or any, may take us another month to get to it, but hang in there, we'll get there eventually. No, it's gonna be a busy week, and I would expect that, I mean, to my knowledge, we weren't even supposed to be here but only an hour this week all morning.
Right.
And somehow that got switched around. Otherwise, we'd have gotten rid of these last two. And so,
Have you heard anything in the church meeting about going beyond the 10th?
not a word. No. And, plan on the 10th. And,
Oh, I am.
well,
There's a plane being fueled up right now.
Private jet.
I don't have the
Oh.
ability to do that.
I got a directors meeting on the 16th down in the eastern states, so I told them, yeah, we're gonna be out here on the 10th, I won't be here at all. But anyways, would somebody wanna move to,
Mr. Chair, this is now it's 3.5, just so you know, with that change, we're now at 3.5.
but you guys already,
Yep, and I'll email Linda so she can.
Okay.
so would somebody wanna move to vote the bill out? And we'll keep it open for Richie, some.
Also. Like, well,
Well, somebody's gonna make a motion.
I did, sorry.
we did, and I
Yes,
seconded
sorry.
it. That's okay.
Then moved in second, Irene.
Yes. Senator Campion.
Yes.
Senator Paul.
Yes.
Boy, that's a.
We can put the primary right back in.
I'm glad you voted yes, just in case.
Yes, and Senator Stark.
Yes.
Okay, wait for Richie. Thank you.
So,
I'm reporting this. Right?
yeah,
3.5, right, Senator.
I don't know, we had Brian report it,
Well, I made as many mistakes as I could.
he'd have to change his whole voice, so you
I have 18 floor members.
No, that, you know, all in all,
It's a compromise.
we couple, I'd say quite a ways. So, Brian,
Should we go get the summary now?
Yes, I've been working on it. I've been working on it. Yeah, on this one.
you and Richie were here when we were talking about our miscellaneous bill. And
I don't know that, more on
there was some changes that, we asked. Well, I asked Michael to do, to have them here for us. And, one is, dealing with the Class A waters and allowing, camp owners, some time to where they could band together if need
Yeah.
be, and
Yeah.
run the pipe and put a bigger, and better septic system in.
Yeah.
To take care of the Class A waters. And so, you know, we had Michael in and talked about that. He'll be back in the morning.
Great.
And then the other change.
And that, Mr. Chair, we've already done it, right? I mean, the Senate passed something like that last year.
Year.
Yeah, okay.
And then we had Pepper in on Friday about
Yeah.
the cannabis stuff. And we added that language. Or we talked about adding that, but we wanted to make sure that you and Richie
Okay, I'll take a look at it tonight.
were, and we'll have Michael in on tomorrow.
Thanks.
You can only stay 15 minutes tomorrow, so we'll have to jump right on.
So from when to when?
9 to 9:15.
Wow.
So you're gonna be on time.
I will be, promise, promise.
So I don't know if there anything else, so,
You're done with.
I'm good. Oh,
well,
is that right to farm? We're gonna have time to do that, right?
Well, we should have put that in this one.
should put
Oh, that's its own.
right to repair, right to farm. Well, right to repair and farm. What do you think?
No, I think, right, so
We
farm is its
covered
own
that.
bill already. We still haven't lived up from last year, right? Isn't it on the wall from last year? We never wrapped that one up. In case, you're looking for ways to fill the time this week, because we got lots of hours left together apparently.
Yeah, but if you load the wheelbarrow,
Yeah.
different stuff.
Yeah.
And stuff that, like trying to put in first. Pretty hard digging to get way to the bottom of the bill cut.
All right, just checking, because I know you said you had done that.
But that is
I
bad
know.
that we didn't get that. But anyways,
You got close.
we'll call the meeting for today and we'll meet tomorrow morning around 9.
Okay.
9. And we'll have, hopefully Richie will be here